Hello dear friends, in this episode I will cover the biography of Otrok Vyacheslav, who stayed on Earth some 11 years, and then in the end we'll cover the current situation, including a bit of news from Alexander Paramonov. On his mother's side, Vyacheslav was born in a very religious family. His mother, she remembers her grandparents praying for days and nights in front of the icons. Vyacheslav's mother, Valentina Afanasyevna, remembers her grandmother Fatimia. At that time they started issuing passports en masse in Russia. Back then, Fatimia has already heard from the elders that the devil will number the people and give them passports. They already warned her about that few generations ago. And even at that time, the message was, do not take any passports whatsoever, it is very dangerous. Due to the lack of passport, grandmother Fatimia could never get an official employment, so she would just gather forest fruits and sell them at the street corner for living. As Vyacheslav's mother saw more and more evidence that he is actually an ascended angel, she started having doubts. Why was he born to her? There is nothing special in their family. His father, who has expired for some years now, he just had a relatively very low rank in the military, nothing special. And she actually shared her doubts about this with Vyacheslav, and he explained to her, he said, me and you, Mama, we are actually descendants of a very glorious forefathers. And he did tell her who was actually in their lineage, but requested her not to share that information publicly. And in general, we covered that in the survivors, that they did all these tricks of tempering the way the clans form their family names, and in general keep records and respect their lineage, and possibly also using frequency weapons to literally make the people lose their memory of who they are. And basically, most of us in the West, we know pretty much nothing about our real lineage. But those of us who have decided not to betray the Lord and not to take the new documents, usually such people will come in special lineages, just they don't know about it. And the vice versa is true as well, because the current representatives of every clan, they are actually specially selected by the destiny. Now, during the grand exam, with their choice, they will affect the destiny of the entire lineage behind them. Vyacheslav was born in a maternity hospital, a rather simple one actually, a tent, because at that time his father was in these cold regions. It was everything very basic, so it was a tent. But his mother remembers that the nurse who was always carrying him, in those homes they separate the babies from the mother and bring them to the mother only for drinking milk. The nurse who used to carry him, she was very unusual, also her dress and looks. She was kind of out of this world in terms of looks. So actually, shortly after departing from the maternity home, Vyacheslav's mother decided to return and find this unusual lady. But when she started inquiring about her, it turned out there was never such a nurse employed in that maternity hospital. Another similar untraceable person was the doctor, or whatever looked like a doctor, who actually one day came and checked Vyacheslav and somehow wrote in his medical record that he should never be vaccinated because of some sort of reason, and that's why he missed all the vaccinations except one inoculation which was done before that. Also, his eyes were quite unusual, and apparently some doctor came and he understood that this could be considered as a sickness by some, so he explicitly wrote in his record, which remains throughout the childhood, that he should never get treatment for his eyes as well. Actually, Vyacheslav spent almost half of his life in Germany because his father was stationed there initially when he was still a small baby, and there was one episode over there in Germany when they were leaving. His parents decided to buy all kinds of at that time luxury items, for example embroideries and fine fabrics, because they were not freely available for sale in Russia at that time. So because in Eastern Europe the parents have this tradition when their children get married to give them lots of luxury items as gifts, his parents were thinking, Vyacheslav and his brother, he has a brother Kostya, we better buy the gifts now until we can, and we'll keep them for many years and we'll give them when the boys get married. So at that time apparently Vyacheslav knew he would leave much earlier than his parents expect, but he didn't want to tell them yet, and his mother was telling him, do you see these things? Do you like them? One day when you get married, we'll give them to you at your wedding. But Vyacheslav just told her, no, all these things will be for Kostya. His brother's name is Kostya. His mother didn't get it, and she said, no, do you see this embroidery? It's very nice. Why don't you like it? He said, it will be for Kostya. Then she started showing him other things to get him interested, but he said about each and every one of them, this will be for Kostya as well. And this is his brother, by the way, now on the photograph. His mother said to Vyacheslav, you see, you will grow up and you will get married and you will have children of your own. Maybe you will allow me to take care of your children, she said. And at that time, Vyacheslav silently accepted her offer to take care of his children. Little did she know that he actually meant all the thousands of people of which she will have to take care of after he departs. As a kid, Vyacheslav had no interest in toys. They were simply not exciting to him, none of them. He would always talk about God and encourage the people to go to church at that time. We are currently at the turning point at which he said people should probably stop going to church when it openly betrays the Lord. But at that time, he was not interested in toys. He was interested in getting the people to turn to the Lord. He was never naughty. He was always an exemplary kid, also in school. And in the beginning, he was even excited to go to school. But later on, especially when they started teaching history, He was kind of fed up. He said it's really unbelievable that the history can get distorted in such a monstrous way. It seems he was expecting some sort of history distortion already, but the stories he heard, they were far beyond he could imagine the nonsense can reach. He healed and helped many people during his life, and it is not clear how exactly did he heal them, but all of them they report a similar experience. He would just talk to them, and at that time they would feel kind of some sort of an invisible threads, as if pulling something in their body at the place where the sickness is. And shortly after that, they would all of a sudden get healthy. And such miraculous healing, actually, they continue even after his departure. Actually, there are thousands of testimonials, and a couple of volumes have been published with the miraculous healings of people from all religions at his burial site. Actually, 2 years before he left, in a casual conversation in a church, he told one lady that he's gonna leave in 2 years, but at that time she did not tell his mother. So to that lady, he mentioned that he's gonna leave in 2 years, but his mother will live long enough to the time of the Antichrist. To his parents, he said that he will leave some half an year before it happened. It was actually in the train. They were coming back from the main place of the church in Russia, and they were even considering to relocate so that he can live near to that church place, but he interrupted their conversation and told them, you don't have to relocate. They said, what do you mean, we? You're not coming or what? He said, no, I will get sick and leave in half a year, which very much surprised them and alarmed them. But he explained that people have started losing their minds somewhat sooner than expected, and the devilish force has penetrated Earth and it will not allow him to grow up. In other possible reality, he could have grown up, he would have had a family. Initially he would be a doctor and then he would become a monk, but the human race did not take that path, so he had to leave. When Vyacheslav got seriously sick, his parents brought him to the hospital. Actually, they never properly diagnosed him and didn't give him much treatment. Apparently, they were mostly clueless of what he has actually, but it seems it was possibly related with the blood, and because of radioactivity in the region, kids of his age and even younger die in great numbers from something maybe similar to blood cancer. And at one point they tried to change his blood, but he definitely refused. He said, and not only me, this should never be done in the hospital to anybody, because when the blood of another person enters your body, anyway, it will not help you actually, but you will surely get all the sins of that other person and his entire lineage. So he was radically against any transplants or getting blood from other people. Of course, they ignored him and they tried to put it anyway in his veins. Without any success, they put the needles and everything, but the blood simply refused to flow, although it was, of course, placed in such a way that it had to drip in. It simply did not, and after many attempts, eventually they just gave up and could not put other people's blood in him. Later on, he explained that if they would have managed, hypothetically, it would cut his entire bridge with heaven. No wonder that with the current initiative, they are going straight for the blood. And by the way, question from a viewer of the channel: is it okay to have a swapped or fixed partner? Well, having a fixed partner is, well, a bit close to accepting actually the blood of another person, because there is exchange of lots of things when you physically connect to a person. So I think it is not okay. And is it okay to have a swapped partner? Well, I don't know. It's a gamble. We don't really know what is in these things, so we don't know what we could be getting infected with. The other questions in this message have been answered in previous episodes a few times. And back to the departure of Otrok Vyacheslav, he mentioned many things, that, for example, he will lay there dressed in anzug. Initially, his mother did not understand what he meant by that. But later on, during the burial, the circumstances turned in such a way that they could not remove this very casual sports outfit, and he had to be buried with it. He also, later on, when somebody donated this kind of fence for his burial place, when they saw the design, they recognized it in one of the sketches he left. Also, the last gift he left for his mother was a sketch of the big temple. He said, "The last temple you will build." And actually, his only inconvenience when he was leaving, the only thing he was not happy about was that he will leave his mother alone. He apologized to her so many times about that, and he said, "I tried so hard to find somebody and send him to be there with you during the tribulation, but I could not find anybody." In the case with his mother, what I think most people don't realize is, for example, they go to church and they see some sort of images of saints, both men and women there. We see them lighting candles, bowing down, praying, sometimes crying. But how many of them do realize that contemporaries, like for example Vyacheslav's mother, are saints of the same rank? Vyacheslav told her in great detail, in her case, what is about to happen. For example, first he told her that she will have lots of problem with her feet, and indeed after his departure she had to walk with sticks for a couple of years, and she really had serious pain in the feet and in the legs. When he was telling her that, she asked, "You have healed so many people at that time. When that happens, shall I pray to you? Will you come and heal me?" He said, "No, unfortunately, I will not be able to heal you." She said, "Why?" He said, "You will have to suffer for your own sins and also the sins of other people." So I found one radio interview with his mother, and they were asking her how does she relate with his spirit, does she ask him all the time for things. She said that she always feels the presence of his spirit, but he has told her everything so well that is about to come, that in her case she sees no point in begging him to change things. Although she said there were points of time when her vision developed and she realized that she actually sometimes suffers because of the sins of all these people who are coming by thousands day and night at their home, begging for help, advice, asking questions. And there were times she was thinking, why do I need that to suffer because of all these people? Many of them are also unthankful. But later on she realized that's how it was meant to be, that's how it is, and that's how it will be. And most importantly, should be. Now, since some 2 years, she's no longer in Chebarkul, the town where he is buried. She's in some rural area, again in that region, and I guess this is the period which he foretold as me and you, Mama, we will be at some point in the forest, and around us there will be so many birds. One of the next periods will come when even more people actually realize that his prophecies are true, when things start happening, and there will be a lot more noise, also international, about him. And then the government, they will actually dig out his remains and they will take him to Moscow together with his mother. That will be the most difficult period in her life. They will groom her, tell her what to tell on TV, but when the time comes, she will forget everything they have instructed her to tell, and because the broadcast will be live, she will end up telling what he said, and this will have a profound effect on the nation. And then she will go and live in another city. She was surprised when she heard about that. She said, I will be very old. I don't have any relatives or friends. I've never been there. I don't know anybody in that city at all. What am I going to do there in my old age? He said, don't worry, you will have new friends at that time. And then she will live long enough to meet the great monarch, or the Gradushi Tsar, the future righteous king of Russia, who will reunite the true Christians, at least the true Orthodox Christians. And he will gather the unmarked people at one place, probably somewhere in the middle of Russia, because the big temple will be there. So she will be one of the people helping the great monarch. Eventually she will depart from the same sickness as Vyacheslav. I don't know if she will live to the second coming of Christ, but when Christ comes openly, at that time the red square with the Kremlin, it would have the land below it would have given in, and it would have kind of sunk already. Just the star that is now on the top will stick out. And when Christ comes and steps on the red square, even that will collapse. Also, he will come and see that huge temple. What I found interesting is when he described the construction of the temple, he mentioned that some rich lady will donate towards it, and after that they will find a treasure with which they will finance the rest of the construction of the temple. So that suggests that even more or less in the middle of the tribulation, when we could expect the great monarch, still the unmarked people, at least in Russia, will be able to use some sort of financial system. That I find interesting, but I'm not sure if it will be applicable worldwide. More on this topic in the episode about the great monarch. And also his mother will be sometimes in the forest, sometimes in the city afterwards. So apparently there will be a whole lot happening. It's not that we'll have to run to the forest and wait there 10 years. There will be lots of things going on constantly. And when he gets really famous, then they will start to look for an old book where all the prophets are described. and eventually they will find it in Russia, somewhere in the church archives, and over there his true identity will be revealed, which will initially quite scare his living relatives at that time. But then they will be very happy, and even entire Germany will be proud that he spent half of his life over there. So his mother, probably she's still in the forest, or that's the last news I had, because she sent a message through somebody. She doesn't use internet herself, but she wrote a message maybe a year ago from her forest dwelling, which somebody published. The interesting thing is that when the bug madness started, even in her own circle, everybody found some excuse, already betrayed the Lord at a very early stage, and all her immediate relatives and people around her, they all found some excuse. I'm sure the listeners are very well familiar with all these types of excuses. And she said, I'm so happy now that I know all these other people who are loyal to Vyacheslav and to the Lord, religious people, Orthodox in Russia. Otherwise, I would think I'm almost alone, because in her immediate circle, she's there alone now. When I heard that, it really gave me lots of courage for myself, because I'm in the same position. But let's get back to the moment when Vyacheslav was in the hospital and he was about to leave. His mother asked him, why are you living in such a way with this sickness? And he said, I needed to come to this hospital to understand how these kids feel, because in that hospital, very young babies and young children, they die from this radiation in the blood, many of them by hundreds. So he said, I will be coming all the time here after I die to help them, and now I'm here to see what is the situation. And he did not get much treatment at all himself, but even some of actually the doctors who had incurable conditions themselves, they came for help and diagnosed to his room, because they knew that many people got miraculously healed by him. And until the end, he never stopped helping people, even when he was very weak and in lots of pain. Even in that condition, he did heal some people. As far as the future of his hometown, Chybarkul, which is in Siberia, he said that initially when they cut off central energy supply, heating will be a big problem over there. Initially the people will start cutting into pieces their furniture and burning it in desperation. But in no time they will run out of furniture, and they will simply leave these multi-storied buildings and go to live at other places on the land, because it will be very difficult to heat these multi-storied buildings with flats, especially in winter. Children will be seen wandering on the streets, because outside will be warmer than in their flats. In the schools, the teachers will do their best, as they run out of all supplies, even notebooks and eventually even pens and pencils. In the beginning, the teachers will advise the pupils to make use of their old and used notebooks and write on the blank spaces around the already written text. But eventually they will run out of pens and it will be too cold and the entire school thing will just fall apart. Since most of the men will be drafted and then killed during the wars, at the end, at least in the Orthodox lands, women will have to be priests, otherwise there will be no priests. So these are the points I wanted to include in this episode. You will find a lot more details about his life in the older videos as well. I just didn't want to repeat what is already there. So recently, more has been posted on Kaznat Tsara, the YouTube channel of Alexander Paramonov, and it seems they tried massive trillions worth financial fraud, stealing from his accounts to finance World War III, which they are already advertising in the mass media. And since a couple of months, somebody is helping him with the channel. Also, there is some English content, but the person who is adding his own content with quotes and sometimes the voice of Paramonov possibly adds some of his own perspective and wishful thinking to the content, and puts out information which doesn't seem to actually be confirmed by the voice of Paramonov. Like, for example, in his own voice, Alexander Paramonov speaks about this attempt of stealing trillions from his accounts, and it seems that this particular attempt has been hampered. But when in the English version, when they speak about the same thing, and they say, so the attempt failed, it means World War III is cancelled, which Alexander Paramonov did not hint or imply at all when he was covering the narration. And indeed, when he was talking about the same thing, the way he was trying to put into people's minds, make peace instead of war, that was more of a hint that the war is rather not cancelled, actually. And he's such a positive person himself that if it was cancelled, because in previous videos he mentioned a number of times that it is almost unavoidable at this point. So I'm quite sure that if it was really cancelled, he would not have forgotten to tell us. And I noticed this with a few other points made by the new content provider on his channel. So to sum up, if you hear something on his channel and it is not Alexander Paramonov himself speaking in Russian, don't be sure that you are getting information which comes directly from him. And in general, this entire situation of confusing wishful thinking with reality is turning to be a bigger and bigger problem. I get lots of correspondence from spiritual type of people, and it is becoming the norm that they are becoming followers of the Dajjal, or will be becoming such very soon, and they all have the same excuse. Oh, if there is something not so alright, I will just dissolve it with my own energy. And also they all seem to be convinced that they can take the convenient path, and later on, if there is some punishment for following the devil, okay, I will just imagine my own reality and everything will be cancelled very easily. That's what they think. Although looking at the world situation, it's pretty much obvious that it doesn't work like that. Imagine and it happens. But these people, they are so blindly fanatic that they don't even see the obvious, that they cannot create their own reality, at least the way they imagine, which is think, and here it is, it happens immediately. They have been deceived because indeed we create our own reality with our beliefs and thoughts. That is the truth. However, it is a bit complex how it works in time and in terms of different incarnations. And the way it works, it is called the law of karma. But these people, you cannot talk with them. For them, there is only one way, and that is the easy way. You think, and it will happen immediately, even though they cannot demonstrate it. It's like saying, you see, somebody won the lottery, so it means I will play, and if I want, of course, I will win it. But neither do such fanatics win a lottery. And what is worst is that they will get into such a trouble by getting the seemingly convenient way. They will not get the material convenience they dream for very long, maybe just a week or months, or even if it is a couple of years, it will be fully compensated by the internal anguish and turmoil and constant desperation, the deep depressive states of their minds will not even allow them to enjoy the internal conveniences for which they are selling their soul very, very cheap. And in Austria, fixation is already compulsory for all adults, without an exception. They can fine you up to some almost 40,000 euro per year, plus you go to jail if you don't answer their medical invitation with the timestamp where they have prepared everything for you, the needles and all that. And for those who don't like it, they have already recruited a special army of headhunters specializing in finding people and well, not sure what they will do with them. Germany seems to be about to make it mandatory as well. By the way, if you are in Austria when you hear this and you are not yet fixed, you can contact me at this email.